All right. Hello, everyone. We're back with you with the starting five. Myself, Brian, Vladi, Austin, and Amar.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing
Going
good.
on,
All
guys?
right.
Happy
All
to
right.
be back.
There we go. There we go. We're going to get started this week with the NFL. We got a lot of big things going on. We're going to start off with Bill O'Brien. He's out of Houston. What's going on with that, guys?
Well, I think it might have been the fact that I mean he's won a couple divisions over there. I mean, what 4 out of 5 last 5 years. Now, having said there was a pillow fight over there, the Colts kind of were down. Everybody was hurt. It seemed like, but I'm looking at it. I think the GM, Brian, O'Brien, the GM, got the coach fired. I think that's probably what ended up happening. He made some horrible decisions over and over and over again, and I think it just caught up to him. And I think before I let you guys piggyback on that, I think now with this firing, I think there's a couple guys like Adam Gase, like Dan Quinn, who are probably shaking their boots on their necks.
Well, yeah, I got to agree with you just in the sense that, like, man, with it, guys like Bill O'Brien, Dan Quinn, Adam Gase, all these guys that are definitely on the hottest of seats. Like, it's really, it's almost, it's like when's the first one going to drop? And after you know that it does, like, more's to come, right? Because
The
a lot of
domino
this,
effect.
right, it's just kind of navigating like this season with COVID and everything going on. So yeah, there's a lot of talk that, man, all of these guys might even just get a right out the season because there's like how it's going to be so hard to hire a coach while you're in the season and have these precautions and bringing people in, et cetera, et cetera. So now that you watch a guy get shipped off and he wasn't just the coach, he was also the GM. So now you potentially have to find two hirings, right? Which I think I think they'll definitely figure out how to do that. And who knows, maybe that's why they didn't bring Earl Thomas in. Maybe they decided, hey, wait a minute, let's get our coaching and GM situation figured out first, because that's going to tell us what the identity of this team is moving forward. You know what I mean? So maybe Earl Thomas doesn't fit into that, and maybe that's why they said nope. And who knows? But yeah, I think now we're going to start seeing these other guys fall, the dominoes fall, because that first team was finally ready to take that step, and here's how you do it.
Where did they think they were going? I guess my whole question with the ownership is you were going into the season, you saw your schedule, you knew that you made these bad mistakes, you knew that you blew a 24-point lead in the playoffs last year, and the only thing that you did since then was trade away your best player in Hopkins. So you knew that this was what you were going into the season. So why at one point do you say, hey, let's do it in week 5? Why not do it before the season? Or now let's say let's ride it out since we're already in a bad position. You blew a 24-point lead and you gave away your best player in Hopkins. And now you're going to do it in week 5. So I guess my confusion is, and I'm not a fan of O'Brien. I think he should have been gone. But why do it now?
I think that, I mean, if they beat Minnesota, yeah, I mean, because you're not going to necessarily fire someone right after a win. But I do think he was one bad loss away after that 0-3 start. So what, even if it wasn't Minnesota, if in their next game they get blown out or they blew a lead or whatever, and so now you're 1-4, then they could have fired him then. So basically, I think after that 0-3 start, I think all the scrutiny over the DeAndre Hopkins deal, it was gonna happen this year unless they had a winning record. So
and that's the thing is to remember too, is because yes, those first 3, like that schedule was tough out of those first 3 games, but like not winning a single one of those does nothing but tell the organization that, yep, you're right. Absolutely. Like we're not there. Yes, we may be able to get to the playoffs, but we're never getting past the wild card. We're never getting past round 1. This is just like, this is not the guy to lead us past these teams. So yeah, you're right, Amar. There was no matter what, he would have had to have won all the rest of the 13 games to totally avoid being fired.
What did we expect them to go this year? I mean, did anybody see them winning more than 8 games this year? Did anybody?
I think
top 5.
I think Deshaun Watson is so good that a lot of people might have overrated them a bit, and just because he's just got this track record of he can carry them and he can get them out of jam, and so maybe people were thinking, okay, they could go 9-7, they could go,
but he's
6,
just not that guy yet.
They can go back to because there's so much hype around him. When I looked at this move. I'm looking at. I'm pretty sure most coaches want to be a GM. I think it was the Bill Parcells line about, I should be able to shop for the groceries if I'm going to cook dinner or whatever it was. I think a lot of them would like to do that, but I got to wonder, in today's NFL, is it realistic that a guy can handle both of those jobs?
No, yeah.
But he's been doing that for so long.
Right.
But with the salary cap and just how complicated the games become, and then you throw COVID in this season and how you got to work around that. Is it too much for most guys or anyone to handle being the coach and the GM today? Can you say
now the thing that makes Seattle so successful this last decade plus is the beautiful relationship between John Schneider and Pete Carroll, right? And Pete Carroll has very, 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 very heavy say as to who's on that team. You know what I mean?
He's like assistant GM.
To John Schneider,
okay.
They both make that decision together. Hey, based off of the scheme, based off of what we have in front, et cetera, et cetera. So they both make that. And I think you're right though. I think because there's so much to consider, those two jobs has got to be incredibly hard to do by yourself.
One of those jobs, because he's the play caller, he's the head coach, he's the personnel guy, he's the GM. If you're going to take on those jobs, I don't know what you guys, but
he's scouting players for the draft.
You're bound to not give your full effort somewhere if you're going to take on that many responsibilities. At some point, you're not going to give your full effort. These are full-time jobs, not even full-time. These are full-time jobs with overtime involved. You're going to go scout for players and you're going to go build a team. That's 80, 90 hours a week with assistants around the table who all vote on stuff. This is an operation. And if you're going to come in and say, I'm going to do all of these things, plus be the play caller, plus do all of this, are you crazy? And then at some point, he became a dictator in that ship. And now they're in a position where they have the highest payroll in the NFL, $255 million, last time I checked. They have no draft capital, and they have a very expensive quarterback with no weapons. It's a disaster.
That's a good.
And if things go wrong, there's no one else to blame. He can't blame the GM. Hey, it's not my roster. You put together that roster. You can't. There's no one else to blame but you. You put together the roster and you're coaching the team. So when they start losing, it's all on you.
The thing about O'Brien, from what I'm understanding, and unfortunately, is a lot of his moves that he made, three of his top guys at their positions on his team were moved out of personal reasons. As Seattle, y'all received him. It came down to because he didn't like the comments that came from the owner about you can't let the prisoners run it wasn't a lot to say, but why would you discipline a player just because he felt offended? So all his
this business is personal.
Yeah, and that's the problem with him. So in this situation, I think we started with, was the coach fired? Was the GM fired? I think the GM was fired.
I think it's GM, but it also comes down to juggling. Would he have been a better GM possibly if he didn't coach and didn't play a call? Maybe, because I got to tell you, some of those draft picks were good. They had a good draft, that team did. They had good drafts, but it seemed like he wasn't patient enough with some of them. It seemed like because he was so busy with other things, he didn't grow relationships with some of these guys off the field. It seemed like he just wasn't there for them a lot of times, and he just let them go too soon. He didn't work on them because they did draft very well. I got to say, if you look at the draft picks, they drafted well.
So I'm looking here. Let's be honest about it before we get off the coaching subject. Was he y'all's first choice of the first head coach that's going to be fired, or one of the first ones?
No. Gase should have been fired. I don't know. Gase. Dan Quinn.
Patricia. Yeah.
I would have got rid of Gase first and then Quinn.
Gase first, honestly. And Quinn second. I think he's third. And honestly, I think he's third because I don't think he's a terrible head coach. Because there have been some great things that he's done with that team. They won 4 out of the last 5 in their division. They've performed they've won some playoff games. They were up 24 points, but just blew it last year. Well, to a way more superior, talented team in Kansas City. There's been signs that he knows what he's doing. And like I said, not just in the coach, there's been signs he knows what he's doing as a GM on his drafting side. It seems like he's trying to juggle too many things, and it messed the other things up. He could have been maybe a great coach, but he wasn't a great coach because he was trying to do too many things. He might have been a great GM, but he couldn't be a great GM because he juggled too many things. And it comes back to the fact that in this era, with as much these teams invest so much money in their personnel that it's stupid to try to do it by yourself. When there's so many people they can bring in and just let people do their jobs. Don't try to do it on your own. Be the best at what you do. We're not going to see many Belichicks from now. I mean, it's a very rare position to be in.
Yeah. Well, and Belichick wasn't Belichick until 20 years into his career. You know what I mean? Like, let's
don't bring
be
up the
real,
Browns.
you know?
Don't bring up the Browns.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, let's be honest. Like, he wasn't that guy until he'd spent 2 decades in the league. And that's what a lot of these guys we forget, you know, like Belichick, Pete Carroll, all these older guys that, like, they've all had their failures, you know, they're killing it now, but like, you're bound to get fired from your first coaching job in the NFL. So it's very rare that it lasts like especially with guys like Dan Quinn and what have you. But yeah, I would have had him third just because I thought that Adam Gase and Dan Quinn were in such an egregious situation between the both of them that you had to go. But I think like a really, really close third, honestly, because it was almost like, for me at least, the way I viewed it, it's like Doc Rivers with the Clippers, right? Yeah, he only got 1 year with Kawhi and Paul George, but let's not forget the 7 years prior that he just didn't make it, you know?
Absolutely.
And yes, Bill O'Brien won his divisions and all that stuff, but it's just the same story year after year after year, even with all of that talent. And so at a certain point, as an owner, at least, I just got to go, man, he's just like, at what point do we just blow it up and restart? You know, I'm a fan of that.
But don't in this point, I thought what they were going to do, what I personally thought, I thought they were going to relieve him of his GM duties and let him finish off the season as a head coach. Because even now, the intermediate coach is a guy out of his that he brought in, probably going to run a similar system. So why not just let him finish this thing off? Because like I said earlier, you played 3 very difficult games. And even if you win this game against the Vikings, okay, then what? Your season's going nowhere. I get saying, okay, you're done at this position. Now let's see if you can salvage the season. If you can go 8-8, maybe we'll give you another chance. But obviously, I think at this point they're going to win 3 or 4 games, and that's that.
One thing I will say is there's a lot of people that wanted Romeo Crennel to have that job over Bill O'Brien to begin with.
Oh, big time.
Romeo Crennel is another guy that just consistently gets overlooked, or if he does get a head coaching job, it's typically an interim, or it doesn't last that long, or he gets into a rebuilding stage, and
like Cleveland.
Yeah, like Cleveland, you know. So he's another tough one. No, but all right, moving along, guys. We're gonna get into the quarterback play. We have Tom Brady made another miraculous comeback this last Sunday. Dak has had a few of them this year, as of last year as well. The likes of Russell Wilson, Cam Newton. We see this often, but I want to know. We'll start with you, Amar. Who do you have as your top quarterback in the league if you're down and need a comeback? You're trailing.
I think that for that situation, I would want Aaron Rodgers. And one reason for that is he never seems to get overly emotional one way or another. He always seems calm, you know, whether it's, you know, the last play of the game or, you know, they're down by 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter or whatever. Like, he just kind of has this calm demeanor. And I feel like that's very important for someone that's going to lead that comeback, is someone who's just like, you know what, like, we got this, I've done this before, and you just trust him to get it done. Also, I don't know what it is, but he's got this knack for those Hail Marys, and that comeback might come down to that Hail Mary. And if I got one guy to throw a Hail Mary, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. And so just, you know, the accuracy, the arm talent. He's not a runner, but he's nimble enough to get away from, you know, avoid some sacks, get away from pressure. Which is going to be coming at you when you're trying to make a comeback, because they know that you're going to throw the ball.
Absolutely.
So, you know, proven winner, accurate, the Hail Marys, the demeanor. Like, I will take Aaron Rodgers in that spot.
That's, you know, I like the one guy you mentioned that I want people to stop mentioning it is, even though I like the Cowboys, is Dak. Look, Dak's comebacks all come in garbage points, and there's a difference between being clutch when you're down 7 or when you're or throwing for 300 yards and you're down 30 points and the defense isn't playing the same. It's just a different thing. A close game comeback is different. And the 2 guys that I would go to that I've seen do it over is Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, who I've seen over and over again being these close games and perform in the fourth quarter. You know, Dak has been – I was high on the Cowboys last week, lower than ever in them this week after the Browns thing. Because I just noticed that they keep doing the same thing. They go down when it's a close game. I think they were down 7 or 14 to the Browns. I forgot what it was. And then Dak were like 4 straight possessions. Just 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. I almost threw a couple of interceptions in those possessions. Once they went down a lot, though, and the defense kind of started, lackadaisical, if you will, then he starts looking amazing. Then picking them apart. But it's like, dude, you got to do that when the game is close. You can't just start picking people apart when the defense is kind of like sitting back and enjoying the show.
I'll say this about that. It'd be very nice if he had the boom of Legion or whatever that defense has been in Seattle that Russell Wilson has had all these years. Statistically, that is the worst defense the Cowboys have ever had.
No, they're horrible.
It's not even close. And it makes it shine more on Dak. Oh, you went 3 and out, or you only got 54 yards in 3 possessions. You're right. It shines on that. But if this was any other time, watch the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. There's plenty of possessions or segments of the game where they don't look that hot at all. But, they have a solid defense. I will say this about Dak. When you're down by 20-plus points a number of times, and no matter if the defense is falling, but whatever you want to call it, you will your guys back into the game. That says a lot about your leadership. And then not to mention the fact he's making the pass. Yes, Dak had a few that should have been picked off. He had about 3 or 4 on Sunday, honestly.
Yeah, I thought I saw 4.
But again, he's playing from behind. So just like you can say the defense is falling back and doing their thing, Dak is also trying to be more aggressive, trying to pressure it more. We don't even have Zeke. So I look at this offense, not to make it this segment about Dak, but I look at this offense. Yeah. Zeke Elliott is a shell of himself. I don't even know who this guy is. He has barely 100 yards in the last 2 games combined. He's doing.
This is the argument about not overpaying running backs. It's the argument now, and I'm starting to listen to that argument more and more. I used to be the guy like, no, if you're good at your position, get paid. But now I'm looking at it like, dude, I'd rather it's just proven now that you can just get yourself a 4th round running back, get a nice offensive line, and
sure.
You'd rather put that money in your defense,
right?
Because it just these running backs aren't lasting.
No, you're right. So, Austin, who would you have as your quarterback? You're trailing. You need to come back. Who do you have?
Well, I think that answer is pretty obvious, guys. I mean, Russell Wilson, obviously.
And Matt Hasselbeck?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt Hasselbeck, 100%. We want the ball and we're going to score. No, Russell Wilson, without a doubt. I think just what he's done with the team this year, and time after time, the guy just he makes these comeback wins. He performs well in the moment. Kind of like what Amar said, you can't ask for a better player than a guy who just seems calm, cool, collect. You don't see any emotion from Russell Wilson when he's dialed in running that 2-minute offense. You don't see any emotion from the guy at all until that they've either given the ball away or they've scored a touchdown. You know what I mean? He's so laser focused, and that's how he's always been. He dials in at those moments, and he it's almost like what I've always likened him to, obviously, as the saying goes, for most any quarterback of Russell Wilson's caliber is like Madden-esque, I remember they're always, whenever I start a franchise in Madden, I always get a Russell Wilson or a Mike Vick back in the day, whatever, right? Because you know why? Because I always know that in the 4th quarter, if I'm down by 2 scores, if I need to, I'll just rush for 120 yards in the 4th quarter. You know what I'm saying?
For that first down.
Right. I will make sure I get that score. I'll hold on to the ball. I'll secure.
Yes,
and that's the one thing with Russell Wilson. He had kind of a nasty pick the last week or whatever, but he's got an 8-to-1 interception ratio, or touchdown to interception ratio, sitting at 16, which leads the league. And the guy is just, he's incredible in any tight game situation. Just you couldn't ask for a better decision maker, I mean, maybe Aaron Rodgers, but even still, that the rate at which Russell Wilson is just carrying his team, especially given that our defense is the worst defense in the league. We give up more yards than anybody else. The 32nd in the league. And I know we're rated towards the worst in points allowed too. So to have a guy like that is like winning these games for this team or consistently keeping them ahead or in the mix of it, it's just, yeah, man, I think that I wouldn't want any situation, whether first quarter, fourth quarter, Super Bowl, or middle of the week game that means nothing to your seeding. Doesn't matter. I want Russell Wilson as my quarterback.
Is he your?
Now, if this was a basketball argument, because I think football and basketball fans kind of think differently, I would have brought up that Russell Wilson threw an interception to end the Super Bowl, and that one play disqualifies him from being the guy that you want for a fourth quarter. but because it's football, I think people can kind of see the bigger picture, and then they'll forgive him that.
I want to know from y'all, who do y'all put, and I know this is off the side, but who do y'all put that on more? Do you put that on coaching, or it's like, hey, Russell, you had the ball, you chose where to go? I mean, where do you, because a play like that, if you play, just knowing football, a lot of times those are set plays. You come out, you do your draw, you're automatically throwing. You're receiver's supposed to be in a certain spot. It's not so much you look around. That's just what the play is. I mean, how do y'all see that?
And although I said, I think it was last week, that, it's kind of weird that Russell doesn't get more blame for that pick at the end of that Super Bowl. I will say that it wasn't like he made a bad throw, and it was a bang play. And Malcolm Butler made a great defensive play. It was kind of like, it wasn't like, Russell messed up necessarily.
He jumped the route.
But he did throw the pick,
and literally nobody on that defense saw that coming. Like Malcolm, he was the only player that saw that. Like he was the only one that read it. You know what I mean? Nobody else read it.
Yeah. And as far as blame though, and I don't necessarily want to blame the coach. I mean, everyone's like, oh, they should have ran it. But we talked about this before, that, why you would choose to pass it on that play, trying to set up the run, or because you thought everyone was going to expect a run or whatever. So it's almost a situation where it's like not so much blame to be passed around, but just more credit to New England and credit to Malcolm Butler for making that play.
And that's the problem I have with it, is like that is exactly what gets lost.
Okay, hold up.
Whole thing.
It started working again. My bad, man. My laptop stopped working. Now it's working again. Hold up. Let me log in back to my laptop.
Yeah, no worries.
What are you saying, Austin?
What gets lost. You know what I mean? Not only that, but like everybody talks about that one play, but also fails to mention that one of the, and in my opinion, the greatest defense in NFL history, also gave up a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? On dink and dunk plays that they couldn't guard. Yeah, to the goat. So like I think we are finally getting to a point where like that whole conversation has, it's a joke that you'll see every once in a while, but like, as a fan, it definitely doesn't bother me. You can tell with Pete and Russell, if anything, they just use that to add more fuel to the fire, but overall, yeah, I agree. I think that more credit needs to go to New England than any kind of blame needs to be passed around to anybody on the Seahawks side.
What play did y'all see coming? I personally thought it was going to be a bootleg. I thought, he was going to fake. I thought it was going to be a run. It just wasn't going to be a Marshall. I thought,
Yeah, I thought they were just going to run a power O. That's the play that they've ran or that they had ran in that situation 100 times all season, and it worked 90% or whatever. I mean, it was a pretty crazy, stupid high number that worked. And with the one thing that like really twists the dagger in my heart is to find out that like the New England Patriots were the worst team in the NFL in that situation. In that exact situation throughout the entire season, it was like 16 times or whatever they were in that exact situation. 99% of the time they gave up the touchdown.
No more Vince Wilfork down there.
Yeah, 99% of the time they gave up the touchdown on a run play in that exact situation. And so like why, and again, I've made peace with it, and I've heard Carol's explanation on it, and I 100% agree. You haven't?
No, I haven't made peace with it.
Oh, you haven't made peace with it. I'm like, man. But no, like, so, but I'm more of we're at a point now where, like, especially because I held my faith and I stayed strong, we're watching Pete and Russell like orchestrate just this otherworldly, never seen before in Seahawks history season right now. You know what I mean? That it's just.
I mean,
It's
we
so
hey,
much
we have
fun.
one more game. If we win the next game. We have a bye coming up, and then we're 5-0, and everybody comes back healthy for the 6th game. I mean, we're in a
Jamal
good.
Adams. Yeah, I mean, even if they lose, you know what I mean? Even if they lose, they go into the bye week 4-1. Then they get Jamal Adams back. They get Jordan Brooks back. They get a lot of good, healthy, solid. And I mean, there's a really, 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 really strong possibility that they make a move before the trade deadline. That they make some kind of trade. They give up something, somebody, whatever. I think Quandre Diggs might be on his way out if there's still a market for him. Will Disley might be on the block here because Greg Olsen has kind of emerged out there in Seattle. But I think they make a move for some kind of pass rush or secondary help, whatever they can find the highest tier of at the best value. I heard some rumors that JJ Watt might be getting possibly shopped around, and Seattle could maybe, dabble in that if it's available. You know what I mean? Not to put anything out there that I don't have any kind of confirmation of, but just kind of.
Even without any crazy addition to our defense, I think this offense is good enough to win this division. Obviously, with the 49er injuries, obviously Arizona's just young and they're not there yet, and the Rams, I mean, they don't look all that good right now either. They look okay.
Yeah, they struggled against the Giants. It wasn't anything super impressive. It's a game they should have won, and they did.
They barely won.
In the exact fashion that you could have imagined that they would have won. You know what I mean? Like, that went according to plan.
The one thing going for Seattle right now, no matter what, is this division is not as strong as we originally believed it was going to be. To be honest, because of the injuries, because of all these things that just happened. But this division is not what we originally thought it was prior to the season.
Still best in football, but yeah,
still the best in football, but it's not where it's.
I think Arizona's a lot better than what people thought they were going to be. I think St. Louis is about where people thought they would be.
It's LA now, dude.
I think it just comes down to the
4 years.
I think it just comes down to the injuries of San Francisco. Really, I mean,
I
think they're exactly who we thought.
Yeah. Cardinals are a little bit are definitely better than I had them being a much improved team. Kyler Murray's the truth. You know what I mean? Like that kid is definitely he's going to be a superstar in this league. He'll be the next Russell Wilson. Whatever you want to call him.
I have him in the playoffs.
I have him ending the season 10-6.
Yeah, I have him in the playoffs.
So taking a wild card spot.
Yeah, I have him in the wild card.
And so that's the thing is like. They have legit talent, you know what I mean? But I didn't have them like starting this quick, and I still will maintain my 10-6 that I had him from the gate. You know what I mean? Yeah. DeAndre Hopkins is the truth.
Man, he's setting records. He's records all over again.
Kyler Murray, a kid who really had a very efficient, a solid rookie outing where you're this kid could definitely take the proper steps forward, the
eye test was definitely there.
And so then you add, arguably, in my opinion, the best receiver in the league to his core, and you have old boy who's running the ball.
Drake.
God, he killed the Seahawks last year.
Drake.
Yeah.
And veteran leadership with Fitzgerald still.
They definitely were due. I felt like
the only problem with the Cardinals is the defense. I mean, Hopkins, too bad he can't play both sides of the ball.
No kidding.
They're kind of in that Cowboy situation. If you guys were just and that's the problem. I look at a lot of these times where we talk about the coach has been the GM taking that slide, but think about the coaches that bring in their own staff. I look at a coach like McCarthy. Cowboys technically have the third best offense in the NFL, but he brought in a Nolan who hasn't been in football since 2014. The last time he was in 2014, they had the worst defense in football, and here we are again. So, and who do we look at? We look at McCarthy. What are you doing with that? That's kind of the problem that's going on with Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the winner with the McCarthy thing, Aaron Rodgers, I remember coming into the season, they were talking about McCarthy and Rodgers, the breakup. who was it that won them the Super Bowl, and now you're looking at it like, oh, it was Aaron Rodgers, bro.
Without a doubt.
He was Aaron Rodgers, bro. So I think he won that. I have another interesting question I want to ask you. There's a couple of interesting free agents like Antonio Brown, like Z. Do you guys think he gets signed halfway through?
I thought did he say he officially retired, or is he back trying to play in the NFL?
No, he's definitely back. And Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas is another guy that's out there right now.
Earl Thomas is a guy, especially we've been here in Texas, everybody doesn't understand why he's not in a Cowboys uniform. And I'm going to say, like I said a year ago, if he was going to be here, Jerry would have signed him before he went to Baltimore. He would have been.
Yep, I just had that debate on Bring Your A Game.
Come on,
that's the facts. We
would have traded for him when he ran to our locker room in Seattle.
Dallas, like 5 or 6 times over the past like 2 years or whatever.
Well, Baltimore did pay him a lot though, right?
But that's the thing, Jerry didn't. He didn't offer him a contract.
Texas kid. This is a Texas native.
Yeah, if they wanted him there, if like they truly wanted him there and felt like he could help the football team, and especially the fact that Jerry Jones loves superstars. That's what I'm saying. If they wanted him there, he would be there. He would have wore a star before he ever wore a Ravens jersey. You know what I mean?
So my question is, do they need to suck it up? Do the Cowboys need to suck it up right now?
Here's the problem, though. Because they don't. Jerry Jones. We heard the memes. We've seen the memes. Everybody makes the jokes. So he brings in the abusers, women abusers, and the jail people. We can name all these players. I don't want to do that to him. But the thing with Earl Thomas, right before he did go to Baltimore, because he had a few people looking, he had that situation with the wife where he was cheating on her. Him and his brother was messing with the girls. Wife came in, pulled a gun on him. Here we are. And then even before, he was supposed to sign with Houston and didn't. Something went down. People don't really tell the details on it, but something happened. They changed their mind. So I think he's too much of a headache to bring into the locker room. I feel like we have enough of real team leadership that would kind of umbrella him, if that makes sense. But I think he's too much of a liability.
And we could use him. In a division where you need to win 4 games to make the playoffs, I mean, I feel like he could help you with a couple of them.
And that's also what Jerry said. Hey, we only need to win 8 games, 7 games to get in. I'm sure we can get there with what we have. Yeah. But I mean, we have solid, good kids at safety, but they're nothing special. You know what I'm saying?
To mention the other free agent you brought up, Antonio Brown, I think he's done. I don't think he's going to play again. I think because there's a lot of receivers aren't tough to find, and Antonio Brown, is one of the most talented out there. He might have been the most talented in the league while he was playing, but his off-field stuff and just the psychological instability there. I mean, if T.O. couldn't get signed, T.O. could still play. He was in great shape. He couldn't get signed because he was a locker room distraction, because he's a little eccentric and kind of weird.
He cried about his quarterback.
Right. He couldn't get signed, right? Even when he could still play. Antonio Brown was like way worse off the field than T.O. And so absolutely. I don't think anyone's taking that chance on him because, I mean, he's got run in trouble with the law. I mean, he's just from day to day, it's just like there was a point last year when people were like, "What? Something's wrong with him. Like something's
he became the Kanye West of the NFL."
I knew you're about
yeah. It was like someone needs to admit him to a program or something. So I don't think that unless there just wasn't any good receivers out there, I think Antonio's done, which is unfortunate because I mean he was so good.
Amar, while you're on it, Odell Beckham.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I mean, I know it's against the Cowboys' horrible defense, but I've been following him, since he's been at Cleveland. The main problem has been him just getting the ball. He's had a few injuries, but it seems like they're not finding him ways enough to get the ball. Even the dinks and donks, the little reverses.
Well, the Browns threw the ball 23 times. I think threw the ball 23 times.
Yeah. This past game against Dallas, I think amongst Browns fans, it was kind of seen as like this breakthrough moment for Odell because of the way he scored his 3 touchdowns. I mean, one of them was on a trick play. One of them was on a run. So they're finding ways to get him the ball, which that's always been the key, right? They've become this running team, which I wonder how much that might change with Nick Chubb being out of the lineup for a while. Hopefully, I think they're going to keep doing what they do. And so they're this like running team, and they're not. Baker Mayfield isn't throwing the ball as much, so on the surface, it looks like, okay, that's less opportunities for Odell, but that's why they're getting creative and they're finding ways to get him the ball. And like, yeah, it was Dallas's defense and, they got the worst defense in the league, but I think they keep that up. They find some, interesting, out of the box ways to use him, kind of like Kansas City uses Tyreek Hill. And I think he'll be fine,
I watched the interview.
I think Odell's the type of guy, that you need to give him the ball early, even if it's just a little screen pass, if it's just a little pitch, if it's something. Get him to touch the ball 3-4 times early, and then
get him involved.
Yeah,
and yes, he doesn't check out, because once he checks out, it's over. Because then he kind of pushes down everything else. So I think that what they've been doing the last couple of games is good. Like, they get him these running games, they throw him these little pitch passes, and he's doing his own thing. I mean, that play against the Cowboys is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was incredible. I mean, when on the reverse, and how come? But then you got to look at the Cowboys. I think Alden Smith there. Alden goes on him in the backfield there.
Yeah.
That almost got him. He's the only guy that tried to make a play on defense. Everybody else just kind of,
Alden Smith has been our best defender all year. But on Odell. I watched the interview. Brandon Marshall was actually saying this might be a potential problem. And he was saying he kind of related to his last couple of years in the NFL, how teams started trying to just more so give him screens and give him reverses. It's like, man, I'm a receiver, not a running back. He was saying this might be the start of a problem with Odell. I mean, how do y'all feel about that?
I think there's a chance there, but I just don't think Baker has it right now with his arm. I haven't seen anything to show me otherwise. I mean, he's very inconsistent. His percentage is not high. His completion percentage is not high at all. I mean, he threw 130 times against the Cowboys. You would look at that score and you would think, with as many points as they scored, as bad as that they played, and you still threw 130 times in that game. I mean, that's a bad sign for them with Baker. You can't. I don't think you can consistently win in today's NFL with this. I think they're going to get figured out here really soon. Teams are going to start saying, all they're doing is run the ball. They're going to start boxing this thing up. And you need to be able to throw the ball down the field. I don't know if Baker could do it or not. I'm very disappointed in him so far in his career.
I don't know. I think that with the right decision making, with the right coaching, which he definitely has, I think he'll be fine. And as far as your question, Brian, in regards to maybe Odell might feel some of that I don't think so. I think he's just, to me, he's been a drama queen. He's been a bit of a crybaby, we could say, through New York, and that just a little bit of a head case, I guess you want to call it. But it's been like pretty much the same consistent thing. And that's just that he wants the ball. He wants to score. He wants to be involved, like on every play. And he's just like a very, very like high motor competitor that I don't care how I get it, but put that damn ball in my hands so I can score touchdowns and we can win football games. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people forget that those Giants teams that he was on were not very good. Like, they were pretty piss poor teams, and this Browns team, it's working through some of its hardships, but like, the guy just wants to win football games, I think. You know what I mean? Like, I think, if nothing else.
Yeah. I think if they're winning, and if he has a handful of chances a game to make a big play and to score, I think he'll be fine. I don't think he necessarily I need to get 12 catches a game. I think if he got 5 catches a game, but one of them was a 50-yarder and one of them's a touchdown, and then you give him a reverse or 2, and you do like some trick plays or whatever, I think that he'll be fine. If on top of that you're winning, I think the problem
and honestly,
I think the problem is when you're losing and he's not
prior to the season, OBJ said, literally, quote, I'm trying to get 2,000 yards and 20 touchdowns. I have 100 touchdowns tatted on my arm. He said that in one of the podcasts I was listening to. So he does have those goals of getting those yards.
He wants the ball. He wants to run.
Of course.
Yeah, maybe will it evolve if they start winning, he starts feeling success. Maybe because he hasn't felt the success, and so he was so focused on the numbers because he's like, I never won.
Yeah.
So maybe he will evolve as a human, as an NFL player by seeing these wins. Maybe he says, hey, look, this is just as fun. As long as I get a couple touches, I'm okay with getting 60, 70 yards in a game instead of 20.
Well, he's still getting targeted pretty regularly.
And like that with the tattoos, he talked about touchdowns and yards. I don't think he wants to be Julian Edelman where he gets 10 catches for 50 yards. He wants the big plays. He wants the TDs. And if he scores
the spotlight,
if he scores 2 touchdowns on 2 catches, and that's all he got for the game, I think he's happy with that, as opposed to he gets 11 catches and he gets 7 yards a catch and they're all quick slants and he doesn't get to break one. You know what I mean?
Especially if one of those 2 catches for a touchdown ends up being like the game-winning touchdown or whatever, he just wants to be in the spotlight, and I can't necessarily blame him for it. And he's still getting pretty regular targets. They're finally kind of pushing through that wall there. And I think getting him involved in these ways, if anything, will do better for the team and his mindset. Right. And not only that, but and maybe you guys have seen it where I haven't, but most of the trade talks and that kind of stuff involving Odell Beckham departing with Cleveland, I don't remember hearing anything directly out of Odell's mouth. You know what I mean? When he was wanting to get out of New York, he was definitely pretty vocal. He was not afraid to say it, and speak on it and that kind of stuff. But a lot of what I've heard on the potentially being traded from Cleveland, a lot of that it came from the media.
It might be because his best friends on the team. It might be because his best friends on the team.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So I think if he gets to, so my point is that yes, I think he's having a blast because his best friend's on the team. That's what he went over for. And then you incorporate winning football games, being the guy to make the crazy cool Sports Center top 10 running play or crazy catch flea flicker play, whatever the case. I think that's enough spotlight, enough love, enough attention, everything else to keep him happy and keep him there winning football games.
But are we getting carried away with ourselves? I mean, they beat the Bengals, they beat the Washington football team, and they beat a Cowboys team in one of the worst defensive performances I've ever seen in my life. So, the one team they played that was actually decent that day, where they got their asses kicked. I think the next game is very interesting because I think the Colts have been playing out of their mind. I think the Colts are the best defensive football right now from what I've seen so far. Colts have been playing great. And if they're playing the Colts next, I want to see what happens there before I push any further on this gas pedal with the Browns.
I'll say as a Browns fan, I really cannot remember the last time they had a 3-game win streak. I think they said they're over 500 for the first time since 2014. So it might be a little too much. It might be a little overhyped, but hey, it's better than being 0-4 or 1-3.
Yeah.
So
are they a playoff team? Are they a playoff team?
I think so.
I want to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also the Browns, and then they find ways to blow it.
So the reason what makes them a playoff team is Kevin Stefanski. I mean, we're watching the same exact formula in Cleveland this year that won those nitty-gritty football games that Minnesota won last year. We're watching that same exact formula, right? And in Minnesota last year, they did just enough. They again won those nitty-gritty ones, those defensive battles, those ones where you had to pound the rock and run it efficiently, et cetera, and they got into the playoffs. And that right there is that's your most basic recipe to at least get into the postseason is just play really, really good defense, control the clock, run the ball, which is what they do. Now, granted, Nick Chubb being gone hurts, but Kareem Hunt, the kind of season that he's had so far, they're not going to miss a beat, So when you're just pounding the rock, you've got incredible players in Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. Baker Mayfield is playing very efficient football, which is the most important thing, just not turning the ball over. And you can allow your defense to just keep them 21 points or under or 25 points or whatever, you know what I mean? Which they didn't do against the Cowboys, but that's a really good offense. But if you can just keep them right around that 20 to 25 points a game and you can allow your offense to go out there and score that 30, I think they win 10, 11 games and they
look, playoffs. And what else is going for them this year is their schedule. They have the Colts and the Steelers next, which let's say they go 1-1 on that. Then they have the Bengals, Raiders, Texans, Eagles, Jaguars. A 5-game streak where they can easily go 4-1.
There you go.
Worst case. They could even win 5 in a row. Right?
Even going 3-2 during that streak, they'll be right in that.
And still be, they'll be right there in the playoff.
When's the last time y'all were in the playoffs?
There's a long way to go to.
Amar?
Say that again?
I said, when was the last time you guys were in the playoffs?
2002, I want to say. 2002, 2003. Yeah, it was. I remember Kelly Holcomb was the quarterback. He started off. I think we still had Tim Couch and he got hurt or something, and so we played Pittsburgh in a wild card game with Kelly Holcomb.
Second longest streak after my Mariners. The last time they made the playoffs in 2001, the year before.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I was thinking, who is that linebacker that they brought over or that came over from New England? And like
Jamie Collins?
No, before that.
Willie McGinnis?
Yes. They didn't go to the playoffs with him?
What era was he in?
That was like 2009.
That was like 08, 09, I want to say. I thought
I'm not sure if they made
playoffs with him.
I don't know.
No, because I know that Holcomb was the last playoff trip. I just don't remember if it was 02 or 03 or something like that. So, yeah.
So it looks like we definitely have them in the playoffs. If they stay consistent, keep the injury bug out of the locker room, they could very well win 9, 10, or 11 games.
Yeah, 2002.
And the AFC, honestly, I mean, they got some solid teams, but not as stacked as everyone likes to make them sound. I still think the NFC is the better better conference. And that's not even with some of our teams being at their best right now. We haven't seen Tampa Bay's best. We obviously haven't seen Dallas' best. We haven't seen New Orleans at their very best. So, and before we get off the NFL segment, I do want to talk. Looks like we got about a few more minutes in this particular segment here. What are your guys' thoughts on the COVID in the NFL right now? Is the NFL doing enough to protect its players? Seems like every week we're getting 4 to 5 new players coming up positive, and who knows how many staff members, because apparently they don't allow, they only let you know about the individual players. So what are your thoughts? I mean, are they doing too much enforcing it?
Aaron Rodgers actually was asked this the other day. I think it was yesterday. And he said, listen, I don't want to be in the bubble. I don't want to be anywhere around the bubble. I want to live my life the way I'm living it. I guess it's difficult to get this many grown men into some sort of bubble. I mean, NBA is a lot easier. You have a lot less coaches. Your coaching staff is smaller. Your team's obviously smaller. I can't imagine the NFL being able to pull off, especially mid-season, some sort of bubble. I just don't think logistically it's possible.
Not possible.
It's not possible. I don't even think. Let's say even if they said let's do something miniature bubbles for the playoffs with the remaining teams that are going to be in the playoffs. Even that would be very difficult. It would be just very hard to pull off. What the NBA's done is phenomenal. The NBA's done an amazing job. Right.
Well, and keep in mind the NBA spent $150 million just to start it, and look at how much they had to work out with players who opted out and didn't want to play, and you know what I mean. Like that was a hassle and a half to get going.
At this point, I think it's going to be the veteran teams towards the end that have the leadership that can tell their guys to not go out before whatever, but. It's going to happen, man. Like I said, I think everybody's going to eventually start getting this stuff. I mean, Cam Newton just got it. It seems like now people are beating it quicker, and it's taking less time to get over. And I hope that continues. But I don't see any other way for them to do it. It's either go through this route or not have a season.
Do you think it would have been better? Because this is kind of how college football is dealing with it and was proposed to deal with it, was doing these kind of like conference only, whether a bubble or just a conference only schedule. Would it have been feasible for the NFL to just have just the NFC North? They just play each other all year, and maybe you kind of try to do like a bubble where you kind of contain it to Chicago or whatever, or the AFC South. They only play each other, and we've got this shorter season where they're not crisscrossing across the country. Would that have worked? Is that not like with the NFL, we're just so used to no, this is how the season is.
I think you're still traveling.
A real NFL season. Yeah, they're still traveling.
You're still going across Dallas, for example. Basically, their entire conference is on the East Coast. Who's getting?
They go to Philadelphia. You know what I'm saying? That's
Philly, New York.
But it'd be less travel. They wouldn't have to go to Seattle. They wouldn't have to go. Some of these other places.
They're not exposed as much.
Would that have worked? Would the public have accepted that, or what?
Well, I don't think
at
the
the
virus
time,
cares
yeah.
if you're traveling 2,000 miles or you're traveling 1,800 miles. The virus doesn't care.
Mm.
If you're not in a bubble, if you're not in a contained environment, the virus can get you. No matter if you're traveling one state over, you're traveling 6 states over.
Right.
So
That's what my thing is. So,
and
Amar,
it's like, yeah.
when you say will it work, do you mean will it work as far as will people still tune in and watch the games and have the high ratings?
I think
Or work as far as the numbers of Corona would be less than what they are today?
I was thinking, would it work more so? Would the public accept that as like a real NFL
Yes.
season and still
100%.
tune in?
You think they
100%.
would, Austin? Why?
Yeah, 100%. Because at that point, we just wanted some damn sports back. You know what I mean? Like at that point, we had all missed out on the NBA season or the rest of the NBA season. It took us so long just to get the NBA playoffs back.
Baseball was cut short.
Yeah, baseball was cut short. We didn't get the regular start of college football for most sports nuts in most of America, that's what we did. That's what our leisure time is watching sports. We were freaking out wanting sports. And so at that point in time, it was all just a matter of making sure that football made it onto TV, make sure that football was played. So even if it had to come out, yeah, there would have been some moaning and groaning, but people were still going to watch it no matter what.
I know a lot of people who they did not watch any baseball this season because it was just too different. It was just
right.
They didn't consider this a real baseball season, and they didn't watch it at all. And maybe now that the playoffs have started, like they might have some interest, but I would worry about that happening with the NFL if they went to a model that was too off of what we're used to.
What happened is all those awards, like right now we're talking about MVP Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. Those awards mean nothing in that kind of season. Those awards would mean absolutely nothing. Nobody would give a shit about the MVP. Nobody would give a shit about the champion. And if you're going to play divisions only, well, how's that fair when you have one division that sucks, the other division's great, and there's no way to.
You just get to the playoffs and see these teams like that just get blown the fuck.
Like the AFC North.
Yeah.
It'll be a region. It'll be a region game. It'll be like college football at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
All about the region here. Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna be watching. I don't know if Pac-12 you're on the side to play or not, but I'm down here in the Big 12. I think region that everyone might be watching is the SEC.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's the one.
Until Ohio State starts playing, and then we want to see how good they are. But
right.
Sure, but as a conference, it's all about that. It's ridiculous. Yeah. So I think and who would that division be in? I mean, football. I guess you could say the NFC West.
Yeah.
If the NFC South was better, like who we thought they were going to be, as far as Breeze, let's say Brady, he's starting to get there.
NFC North is pretty decent.
NFC North, yeah, they're always. Minnesota has been one of my favorite low key.
Right, like they suck this year or whatever. But
the NFC East is still going to be popular just because of the teams involved: the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Giants. Even if they're not good, those are just such big brand names.
There's such big brands, and there's a bunch of head cases, and
right.
But see, that's my point. Is that it's just like, yeah, maybe the MVP wouldn't have meant shit. The Super Bowl might not have meant as much, or whatever you want to call it. But like the fact of the matter is that like the NFL has done such an amazing job of marketing and branding itself, and like America's pastime is baseball. America's present is football, and America loves some football. So there's just whichever way it was getting dished up to us, we were going to accept it. Believe that.
We're gonna watch next Sunday.
I like that.
We're good. Football took over the day that the church is down, so we're gonna watch. You know what I'm saying? So
that's what I'm saying. You can diminish the value of the awards and this and that and the other, but like at the end of the day, we're still gonna watch. We would have watched it no matter what. No matter what.
No,
but we wouldn't have gave it. But we wouldn't have gave it if God willing the season goes through and everything ends and we finish. We're not gonna put a big asterisk on the Super Bowl. If we would have the other way. We wouldn't even count it as
the one thing I wonder about though is like, are we gonna start seeing some big name players drop out?
That's my question. I'm worried about the season in general. I know people laughed at me for it, but I'm a little worried about the season. If too many names start going down, how do you keep a season going? Because
I think no matter what, they're going to do it. But like Russell Wilson is a prime candidate of a guy who like definitely had some fears and concerns coming into this season.
He has a newborn kid now.
Yeah, he was one that possibly like
unaffected.
the story was kind of circling around that he might not play this season because he was worried about, with his newborn kid and everything. And so, I mean, like, do you see, now that we have these outbreaks amongst these teams, etc., do we start to see guys say, yeah, I don't think I'm going to play the rest of the season?
Not on contenders. Not on contenders. If your team sucks and you're freaking 1-8, right. Yeah, I'd probably use a way to cop out myself, especially if I'm a quarterback.
We might see Julio Jones sit out the rest of the season.
If he sit out because I don't want to get hurt, we're not making the playoffs anyways. I have money guaranteed. Of course, I'm going to walk away. If I have an excuse to walk away and keep my guaranteed money, I'm walking away if I'm not making the playoffs, bro. I'm not staying here and risking getting an ACL tear. I'm walking away. But I guarantee you, we're going to see by week 6, 7, we're going to see a lot of players drop out. Those guys who are star players who have contract years, we're going to see them say, listen, I'm afraid of COVID, I'm out. And they're going to use that as a cop-out, and I would do the same thing. If I ain't going nowhere, I'm not risking my body.
All right, so no, that's a good point, Vladdy. We're going to end the NFL segment on that note, and we're going to jump back in. We're going to talk about the NBA here, guys. LeBron James and the LA Lakers have now taken a 3-1 lead over the Miami Heat. Where's it going from here, fellas? Is the series over? We'll start with you.
Hey, look. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, there's always a chance. We've seen 3-1 comebacks before. We've seen even LeBron's teams blow leads before. Like the Dirk Nowitzki Dallas team that only had one quote unquote star. So no, I mean, you don't want to say it's over, but I don't see LA losing 3 games in a row to this Miami team, even if Bam Adebayo's there, even if Dragic is able to come back. So yeah, for the most part, I'd say if it's not over by Friday, it'll be over in Game 6.
I felt like the Lakers gave them a gift last game and were begging them to tie the series up. I mean, they scored under 110 points. They only out-rebounded them by 2. And I remember last segment what I said, if Miami can win, if they keep Lakers under 110, and if they can stay with them rebounding. And they accomplished both those things, but then they go out and score 96 points. Lakers are giving them that game. Like, you take it from us. At this point, I just don't think they have the juice left. AD and LeBron are just too great at this point. I mean, it would have to be – I know we've seen a lot of 3-1 comebacks in this bubble, but they're just outmatched. I mean, this is not the team that can compete with this Lakers team.
Is it because of the injuries? Is that a big problem? Is that the main?
I think the injuries are a lot to do with it, but I think it's just a lack of experience in the starting 5. You have guys like Iguodala. You have guys like Haslam on the bench, off the bench. But there's just not enough guys on the court that are ready for this moment, I don't think. But I did think they did a lot better of a job defending Anthony Davis this last game. They did a lot more doubling on him every time he caught the ball. I like how they pushed him into the corners a lot. And I think that they succeeded in that part. They should have done that, but Pat Riley and Spoelstra made their, move on him. I think they did well there. And if they do that game, they might win another game, maybe. They get lucky. But at this point, it's a little too late, man. And with their point guard being out too, it's game. I think it's done on Friday.
Yeah, I think it's over. LeBron is he's undefeated, went up 3-1 in any series in his career. Him and Anthony Davis are just playing on a whole nother level during this whole series. And yeah, just like Vladi said, the Heat are just like, they're showing that they're too inexperienced for this moment. They just are. It's pretty clear. It's obvious. You can see it in their body language. Jimmy Butler had a pretty inspired game 3, but he couldn't carry that over. You saw him just kind of just come back to earth to what we saw in games 1 and 2, so it was just one of those, it's just one of those things where they're just, we say they pull game 5 out, it's over in 6, like I predicted from the beginning, but there's no way that the Heat are winning 3 in a row. Just not.
I did say that. I did say before the series that there would be that one game when the Lakers can't hit a 3.
Yep.
When they shoot 20% and I don't think they've had that game yet. I think even in game 3, I think they still shot 30-something% from 3. 37%. That wasn't a game where they couldn't hit. That was just Jimmy Butler just kind of took over. So that bad shooting game is still out there and could still happen, and that could be Game 5 where the Lakers aren't hitting, and Caldwell Pope and Kuzma and LeBron and like everyone's just cold. So that's why I'm saying like it's not over, but I don't think Miami's going to win the whole series at this point.
Yeah.
So if Lakers,
you also said I remember you also said Jimmy Butler's gonna have that one game where he's gonna carry them, and you're right there. He had that one game.
yeah, he did.
You know, so
Yeah,
you did call it. You did call that.
It's because Amar's part of the sports media, which is also part of the NBA, which is fixing the NBA games. You heard
Yes,
it.
I actually I look. Okay, I'll
That's gonna be the YouTube tag. NBA games fixed. That will draw crowds.
Full disclosure, I got to look at the script. And I don't want to tell y'all, but like, I saw the script. I know how it's gonna go.
It's like WWE.
So let me ask you this.
This is the crazy thing. So with this game, also, like, if we talk about this series, this is the first time in my entire life as a basketball fan where I felt like there should be co-MVPs in the final.
That was the next question. Who do you guys have as your MVP?
First time in my entire life. I've always been the guy that hates people the participation trophies or people spitting stuff. I've always been like, no, I hate ties in boxing. Like I can't stand. I wish like duke it out in the round. I hate ties, but I firmly, like I was thinking about this today, like who should be the MVP, and I firmly settled on for the first time in my life. I think a co-MVP would be appropriate.
I think it would be appropriate. I don't think it's going to happen just because that's just not their tradition of what they do. I think it's funny. Both LeBron and AD are deserving at this point, but I guarantee whoever wins, fans of the other guy are gonna say he got robbed, and it's just not a thing. Like this reminds me of every regular season MVP. There's a handful of guys that deserve to win, and if they won, they earned it. But fans will say, "Oh, so and so got robbed." So,
remind me, does the team choose MVP for the finals? Does the organization?
I thought we vote.
No, the media.
Yeah,
the media vote.
Yeah. It's a media vote. I think it's about is it like 10 people? It'll be media who are specifically covering the series, and so it's fewer votes. It's not like the league MVP where it's like 100 people voting. It's like 15 or 12 or something like that. Who vote?
I feel like if LeBron wins it, AD will be okay with it. I feel like there's a chance that if AD wins it, LeBron might feel a little slighted because he didn't get the regular season.
Sure, of course he will. Amar, who do you have winning? Do you have LeBron or?
I think that right now, I kind of think it's going to come down to Game 5 or Game 6, whichever is the decisive game. Whoever has the best game on that night, I think will take the award. If you look statistically right now, LeBron is doing what he always does. He's leading the Lakers points, rebounds, and assists, and all the other Finals MVPs he won, especially most memorably that one in Cleveland where he led both teams in all of the major stats. That was the big justification for it. So it's like, because AD had that below average Game 3. LeBron was able to overtake him in the team scoring lead, and he's got those other stats too. Another way you could look at it is, AD played bad and they lost that game, so people could say, okay, well, they need him to play well to win, and so that's why he's the MVP. Or you could look at it like, well, LeBron hasn't had a bad game yet. I mean, he's had bad halves, but he hasn't had a bad whole game like AD did, and so I say, you look at the stats. LeBron's kind of in the driver's seat right now. If Game 5 goes like that, when they played Denver and they got to Game 5 and LeBron closed it out he hit a bunch of shots in a row like in the fourth quarter. I think he had like 38 or something like that. I think if he has a game like that, then he'll get it. But I mean,
at the end of the day, I've got LeBron winning it, or like you said, in the driver's seat right now, because at the end of the day, it's so close, right? We're splitting hairs and even making a decision. I mean, razor thin hairs. So it's so close that at the end of the day, the people who vote are going to do the same exact thing that the middle of the road NBA fan is going to do, right? Not the LeBron fan or the Anthony Davis fan, the person who doesn't really care. Hold on, but doesn't really care, but it's still, going to make a decision. it's just going to come down to the stats, and LeBron's near triple double, if not over a triple double by the season's end or by the series end, combined with him leading, all major statistical categories, etc. That's just going to give him that slight edge that he'll take it.
You're right.
Also LeBron being the kind of the emotional leader of the team. He's more
Right.
spoken. He's more of the leader than AD is.
It's
But
his-
also another interesting thing to look at. I firmly believe if you take either one of these guys off of this team, there might not be a playoff team. So either one of these two guys, you take. I mean, I'm not talking about first place or second. I'm talking about they're not even a top 8 seed in the West. If you take away AD or you take away LeBron, and that's how both these two guys are so important. I mean, this is the why I said the co-MVP thing, because I looked at the bigger picture of the season and everything they've accomplished together, and even this bubble, the way they evolved from the beginning of the bubble, them struggling. I mean, them being horrific from the field. Um, to looking at it, like it's rare that you can say if you take one, if you have two guys in the team, you take either one off, they don't even make the playoffs. I mean, if you took Dwayne Wade off the Miami Heat team, they still make the playoffs. Or you take Bosh off, they still make the playoffs. You take LeBron off, they still make the playoffs. This team, you take one of these guys off, and from the beginning to the end, they're a 9th or 10th seed. We saw that with LeBron not being able to get it done the previous year. So I think what they've got, with the chemistry they got, and what they've accomplished so far, I'm almost nervous about what they can do in the next 2-3 years if they stay healthy.
Do you think LeBron has that much 2-3 years of, I guess you could say, this type of basketball left in him?
Look, LeBron to me, it's like when I used to always say, all right, the Spurs are done. That's it. They can't go no further, right? And next year they come back and Tim Duncan's 47. This dude is in a wheelchair and he's still crossing people over. Yeah, it's like at some point, it's like you got to give the respect until you see the decline. And honestly, LeBron's as good this year as ever been.
LeBron
Right now, LeBron is as
good
good
for as long as he needs to be. That's the reality. Until he has a guy like Anthony Davis who, could be this guy who kind of takes the car keys and moves forward. Mm-hmm. LeBron will be this exact guy until he absolutely until he doesn't need to be. He just
and you can see a little bit of a decline. I mean, like, he doesn't just blow by anybody guarding him whenever he wants to anymore. When he gets to the rim, you see guys, these dudes like Bam Adebayo and stuff, are blocking his shots more often, or making him alter his shot more often. So he is declining a bit physically. But I also think that he's smart enough and experienced enough that he's going to adapt, you know what I mean? And it might not completely change his game.
Dude, he has become a great shooter. I'm sorry, but maybe not great, but so much better than he used to be. Like, he has a reliable 3-point and jump shot at this point in his career.
Good fade away from the mid.
Yeah, he knows how to find his spots, and that little step back jumper, that little hesitation or step back jumper that he does, it's money, bro. Like, it's a move that we didn't really see much earlier in his career. And so, but more on top of that than anything else, like I mentioned, the guy is doing an incredible job of finding his spots on the floor, right? As a shooter, which is like, that's hard for someone who came up in the league the type of player that he did. Cause he was a slashing a player, a drive to the hoop, get to the rim kind of guy. And so for him to understand and have the basketball IQ to know that he needs to slow the pace of the game a bit, in the sense of not just running downhill all the time, but also finding your spots on the floor that you're shooting hot from, how to get there, how to move the ball around to get there, etc. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's funny because you have
how intimidating he is. He's just become this intimidating figure on the court. When whoever plays him are intimidated by him. And you saw that with Kobe, even when he was declining a bit, people were still kind of intimidated. But what's the difference here is people aren't just intimidated and he's like way in decline. He's still damn good. But he's has the 17 years of a resume behind him. But when he gets in these big stages, these guys crumble to him because he's terrifying.
We're watching it before our eyes.
We're watching before your eyes. These guys, this Heat team that was so energetic, so fun to watch. They see him step on that court. And if it was a different player, just as good, LeBron is an intimidating presence on the NBA right now. And he will be. And like he said, he can pass the car keys. He doesn't have to average 25 points a game. He can go down to averaging 20 a game and still win titles because he's have an AD. And if they build a little bit more around this team, they could win 2 or 3 titles.
What are you gonna say, Amar?
Like to what Vladi was saying. I mean, I heard someone say this about Tiger Woods, that if you notice, it was like all these guys, they always choked against Tiger, and they were like, that's not a coincidence. Part of the reason they're choking is because they know he's coming, and his reputation is like preceding him, and it's like, Tiger's only 3 shots back, and they start getting tight, and I feel like it's kind of the same thing with LeBron. Like, I don't think it was just happenstance that Golden State blew a 3-1 lead against him. It was
that was my problem with what Paul Pierce said. He was acknowledging what we're talking about, but he tried to make it like today's era soft. These players,
right.
my era, we didn't. Maybe you didn't exactly because you were older. The guys you did that to were the Michael Jordans when you were younger, stepping on the court, or even Kobe when you were playing with him. So, I think, not to change the subject at all, but guys like Paul that say that stuff. That's just so negative.
Okay, Paul.
Well, hold up. Let me answer. I think Paul Pierce is right in a sense. Paul Pierce did not look. There was only LeBron James comes once in a generation. You had probably Kobe Bryant of their era, Michael Jordan before that, LeBron James here. Paul Pierce was just fortunate enough that in his prime, LeBron was younger.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
So he wasn't a hero or any of these guys, young guys who have to look up to LeBron, who they've been watching on TV since they've been kids, right? When Kobe was at his prime, Paul Pierce and him were the same age pretty much. So he didn't get to go against Jordan in his prime when he was still kind of getting it together. He would have been just intimidated. So the difference is Paul Pierce just didn't get to experience this. With these younger guys, they've been watching LeBron play for the last decade, almost 2, at an all-star level every single year. And now they're underneath them. And they're intimidated. Paul Pierce is intimidated because there's nobody for him to be intimidated of when he was in his prime.
And you look at Paul Pierce isn't going to admit that anyone intimidated him or everything. A lot of Paul Pierce's success was built on confidence. He wasn't the most amazing athlete. He wasn't like the biggest dude, but like a lot of it was his mindset, his mentality, and nobody intimidated him. And that was part of his whole persona. So maybe for him. But and another thing, I'm gonna need Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett to stop acting like they played 30 years ago. Okay. I'm like, y'all retired like a few years ago. Like you didn't play in this way.
You're barely becoming eligible for the Hall of Fame.
They keep talking like, in our era and back when we played, and it's different, and it's not that different, man. Like y'all,
because here's the funny thing: back when they playing the game, when they played, guys like Bill Russell and maybe Michael Jordan or whatever, guys from that era, they were still saying this era of basketball is soft. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it like
about Jordan's era.
Every generation says that. And when
KG, just because you were the toughest of what was considered a soft era, like, come on, man.
You guys were tougher because you guys were less skilled. That's what you people got to realize. More fixing and shoving, it was actual skill. You know what I mean? It was like you see, like you look at the Bad Boy Pistons. They're very aggressive. But that whole era was aggressive. But they were not as skilled as Kevin Durant at 7 foot.
No.
Who could cross over.
And Charles Oakley, those type of guys wouldn't be in the NBA today. You know what I'm saying? Rick Mahorn. What a Rick Mahorn in today's NBA,
And when
Anthony Mason,
when LaMelo Ball Jr. and LeBron James III, when they're the best players in the league, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are going to be like, oh yeah, this league's soft. And
Paul George better not say nothing.
Real man.
Right. Paul George better not say nothing. But here's what's funny is that you bring up those guys like Oakley and stuff like that. Look at Hassan Whiteside, dude. That guy was a freaking star in this league.
That's true.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like, Hassan Whiteside was a consistent 2010 guy every single night for the Heat. He was their best player on a team that wasn't, it got to a point where it got pretty bad, but he saw a little bit of success with that team. Right. And so, and look at you don't ever hear from him now. He's on the Portland Trail Blazers. Right? Yeah. And I don't even think I saw him play a single minute in the playoffs.
I don't even think he started.
I thought he was going to put him over the hump, man.
That's what I'm saying. Me too. But because of the type of, that's who he is. He's that old traditional center, and it just does not fit in today's league at all.
No, you got to be able to stretch the court today.
Right.
Yeah, you got to. All right, guys. So we got a little time left in our show. In our last part of our segment, we're going to get into why are the NBA ratings so low? I mean, we're seeing some of the best play out of LeBron. We're seeing probably the best of AD's career. Miami, you're down there in Florida. They have a big following. People are happy to see them back in. Pat Riley, Spo. You got some big names. What's going on? I mean, people are at home. Why are we not watching the games?
I think it's this matchup. I think that, going in, nobody really gave Miami a chance to win. And it didn't even seem so, especially, the series isn't going to end in games 1, 2, or 3. So what's the point of watching? Like, if people thought, okay, this is going to be a sweep, LA is going to, just run them off the court. Okay, maybe I'll watch game 4 just to see when they close it out. You know what I mean? But like, I think Lakers Clippers series would have got Western Conference Final, would have got a high rating, right?
Or even Lakers Celtics. So Lakers Celtics.
Well, Lakers Celtics in the finals. I think Lakers Milwaukee in the finals would have got a good rating. So I think it's just this particular. I think this particular matchup just wasn't a good one for TV. Like we talked about.
What was your best storyline? Like Andre Iguodala, the reigning or the old Finals MVP.
Yeah, we talked about how Jimmy Butler
would shut down LeBron or whatever.
Right. We talked about how Jimmy Butler isn't like this mainstream superstar, even though he's playing in the big market. And so I think it's just most of it was just not a TV friendly, very intriguing matchup on paper.
How many people really know who the Miami Heat are as far as their players? You might know Jimmy, but unless you're one of their fans, you really don't even.
You're just now getting introduced to Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, all of it. Yeah.
I had people that originally told me it's because of the protests, and I don't believe that because look, I talked to some of the people that said, "Oh, it's because of protests," and this is like, well, you never watched basketball anyways. So you're not gonna. Yep. All those people that are online saying, "Oh, it's because they have the BLM stuff." I'm like, none of those people ever watched the game. They might have watched here and here at the bar, but they're not diehard fans. Like you don't have to agree with. Like you can put the politics aside. If you don't like that, you can still watch. So I denounce that theory. I don't think that's the reason. I think it also has to do because we have no sports for a minute, and then we have all these sports at once. We have baseball. We have MLS.
So the competition factor.
We have boxing. We have football. We have college football now, right? We have so many things now to be thinking about, and so many things that come out at once. So that's going to hurt your ratings. And also, I just think everything across the board on television is losing ratings.
Yeah.
Can't hear you. We can't hear you. I thought he was hitting himself. I was like, Vladi.
No.
I thought it was hitting.
So you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
You hear me?
Yeah.
So just like you see, you're seeing everything on TV right now, falling ratings. Whether it be the Oscars, whether it be just TV shows. Just because people are going to streaming now, they're watching things online. They're not going to TV as much. You're not going to see things skyrocket the ratings anymore. And I have people that are like politically right or whatever, and they try to pretend that that's the reason that the ratings down. I don't believe that because I've yet to meet a diehard basketball fan who's like, I'm not watching anymore because I have Black Lives Matter. Like, no.
Well, even on that
basketball,
even on that point, Vladi, I know people that not necessarily agree with the movement of Black Lives Matter, but they're still watching their favorite team.
They're still watching it.
Yeah, because they were, like you said, they were already watching it. That's a good point.
Yeah, they're already invested.
Yeah, and the NBA Finals has never had to compete with the NFL
ever
for viewers,
and that's the biggest thing. That's my reason.
Yeah, we're playing this in late September, October. That's not true. Usually it's in June, and the only other thing going on is baseball.
What were you going to say, Austin?
Right.
Well, that's the thing is you're competing with the NFL, which is the absolute juggernaut of all the sports right now that everybody is going to be the most invested in. Absolutely. And then the second probably is college football because that's a incredibly that takes over a lot of ratings.
Playoff baseball.
I think that
playoff
baseball. They've been doing these games, every other day. And I don't think it's a coincidence that game 4 was on Tuesday. Game 5 is not on Thursday because there's going to be an NFL game
or on Friday.
On Friday, because there's going to be an NFL game on Thursday. And they know that. And they don't, they're not going to go direct competition with the NFL because
they can't compete.
The NFL. Right.
Yeah. Well, and we've already watched one game fall on a Sunday, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just no way. And I think anybody who didn't see this coming, was maybe kidding themselves. I'm sorry, but nobody is going to. I listened to it across Talk Sports Radio day in and day out, and they constantly had that conversation, and they would name off the games, right? Ephraim Salam, when I can't remember who he was with, Jason Smith or something like that on FS1 Fox Sports Radio, but he named off all these games, and I think it was like Jets and Bengals, or I don't remember what game it was. It was earlier in the season, but he's like, it was like the one game that he's like, yeah, I would watch the NBA playoffs over that, or the finals over that, or whatever, football is the sport, and nobody is going to watch game 2 of the NBA finals knowing damn well that there's however many games until a closeout game, a winner go home game, over football, regardless of who the teams are.
Yeah. And NBA struggled with ratings from the start of this bubble thing. And,
right.
But at the beginning, it was very simple. Why? Because they're playing games at noon. And they're playing games at 1 p.m. And most people aren't watching TV at that time. Because even if the economy was shut down, people were still out doing shit. Whether they're working on their house or they're hanging out with their kids. People were still active. So the beginning of the bubble, it was like, oh, you're playing these games at noon, at 2 p.m. every other day. You're not having any late night games. Now it gets to the season where we have all these different sports. And you're just not going to get it. I mean, I firmly believe, you might not like the protesting side, but if you're going to talk about, ignore that part and just look at the visual part of it. What the NBA did a great job with this product, as far as us not even noticing the fans who weren't there, as far as bringing us every game seemed like a playoff atmosphere game. The announcing, everything was right. They did a great job, and I can't applaud them enough for how this whole bubble turned out. I mean, one game. I knock on wood that everything ends right and there's no catastrophe here towards the end. But it looks like they really pulled it off, and they deserve a goddamn award.
I totally agree. Like, hats off to the NBA. Seriously.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Like with everything that they had to deal with, players sneaking chicks in, major stars, or at least stars of the league, named like people that names that people know or whatever, opting not to play in the bubble. Yep. I mean, just everything. And like, here we are, we got through all the way to the finals here. We might be seeing only one last game. It's incredible.
And yet there's a certain fan base that is praying that somebody on the Heat or the Lakers gets COVID between now and Friday, because they don't want the season to end a certain way.
Right. Of course.
All right, guys. So that's been the portion of our show today. It's been another episode of Crazy Ant Sessions. We have a little bit less than a minute, but before we let y'all go, Austin, tomorrow I want y'all to let people know about your show and what y'all have coming up next.
Yeah, for sure. We actually we just got done right before this taping here shooting Bring Your A Game. So you can find it under this umbrella. So that's why, regardless of which video you're watching, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, the thumbs up there, and then hit that bell to turn the notifications on, so then you can see not just when the starting 5 drops, but when mine and Amar's show Bring Your A Game drops, when Vladdy and Brian's show The Capitol Report drops. Vladdy and I will be doing a movie review show. We're gonna have Brian's wife drop in just a lot. It's a big variety channel, guys, and we're gonna be growing this more and more. So turn those notifications on so you can see every video, everything that we do. And yeah, please check out Bring Your A Game. I have a lot of fun doing it. We bring on my brother for a little debate session. It's awesome.
Yeah, man. Get involved, comment, let us know what you want us to talk about, and we'll tackle the whatever issue you guys want us to go towards. But yeah, subscribe. Do not forget to subscribe. It will help us a lot. It'll help us get some traffic. Appreciate everybody watching, man. We're just having fun right now. We're just having fun doing this, and we're just only going to get better.
There it is, y'all. Well, y'all stay tuned. Y'all heard them. Follow us, like us, tell your friends, tell your family. Y'all, here we are. We're here to stay. See y'all later.